Hello, hello, hello to my party people out there in Radio Land. Welcome to this week's transmission. This week's topic is the obsession that nobody talks about. So, everybody talks about addiction and obsession, right? We know that obsession in and of itself is an unwanted thing, right? I'm going to say negative or bad, but it is not ideal in most situations. Unless you're creating or something like that, it's constructive. But for the most part, obsession is a destructive type of energy, right? So everybody talks about how, you shouldn't be obsessed with working, right? Because then you overwork. You shouldn't be obsessed with eating, right? Because then you overeat, right? You shouldn't be obsessed with junk food, right? Because then you are unhealthy, et cetera, et cetera. And on the flip side of that coin, other things that are even positive, quote unquote, or beneficial to us can be detrimental as well when taken to the extreme. So that's like exercising, right? That if you are obsessed with exercising, you can cause your body harm because you're not allowing it to heal and the muscles to repair themselves properly and things like that. If you are obsessed with the sun, like I am, that can be bad too when taken to the extreme. Even, let's say, water, right? You can over imbibe and you can die. So any obsession, right, generally is not a good thing. All of these things are tangible, right? Or they're behavioral, right? So we've learned all our lives, don't be obsessed with these things. But nobody ever talks about the obsession with problems. So we say, don't worry, right? Don't stress, be happy, right? Don't drink too much coffee, don't eat too much sugar, blah, blah, blah. But problems are something that are permissible in American society. We are never taught not to obsess over our problems. In a sense, we are taught that just as surely as we are a part of our physical, our material things, right? Our material items are an extension of ourselves, right? That's how we define ourselves. They're an extension of our identity. We're also taught that our problems are our identity. They are a part of who we are. They are who we are, right? So just think about even how we categorize people, right? We say people who are homeless. So we just threw out the window any other aspects of these people's personalities, their lives, their being, their souls. And we just identify them as people who don't have homes by what they don't have, right? We do this with people who have mental illness, right? We label them and put them all in a box, right? People who are poor, we do the same thing. We label them and we categorize them based on what they don't have, based on aspects of themselves that are just one tiny portion of their situation at the moment and have no bearing on their souls. So this is what we do. It's a natural part of North American culture. I should be specific. But so if I was obsessed with caffeine, you would tell me that, right? You would be, you would have no problem expressing that to me and pointing that out. All right, something like that, something that's known to be harmful to my health. But if I were in a constant state of worrying about problems or things that may come to pass or things that I was dealing with, nobody would tell me to stop. And that is dangerous. So we have these people in society where, for the most part, the quote unquote positive people, and I guess, I'm a part of that category, by whether I want to be or not. That's where society has assigned me. But by categorizing people based on a short-term emotion, you are saying that everybody else is not positive, right? A short-term fleeting emotion that can be, that is a choice, as I said, in my happiness is wholeness transmission, and that can be altered at any second, right? We have happy people, and we just make sure we categorize everybody else as unhappy people. So that takes the onus off of everybody who's not in that category, because you feel like, oh, well, since I'm not labeled or known as a quote unquote positive person, then that means I'm the opposite of that. And that gives me an excuse to dwell on my problems, to not try to improve my perception of reality and of myself. All right. So if I'm worrying about the same issues over and over and over again, that's considered normal. And if I'm not, something's wrong with me, right? So just think of people who, maybe they are homeless or houseless, and they're happy, they're just laying in the park whistling, and we're thinking, like, what do they have to whistle about? Why are they happy? Like, they have major problems. They have all these things going on. Or people who have been told that they're terminally ill, people who are in hospitals, people who have lost limbs, people who have lost material items, maybe have lost their homes as a result of storms or terrorist attacks or things like that. Maybe they've lost, an eye, things like that. So when we see them, our natural expectation as people living under the system of North American culture, I got to be specific because other countries ain't like this. I know, because I've lived there. Like, this is a uniquely American thing. Let's get this straight. But we expect them to be sad, to be downtrodden, to be depressed. And we give them license to dwell on those problems. We allow that. So think about it. If you met a person who didn't have a leg, right? First thing you do is feel sorry for them, which you should not. We talked about that before in another transmission. And then you give them license, because you feel sorry for them. You give them license to feel sorry for themselves and to limit themselves and to allow themselves to not see the positive in their lives or in their health and their physical abilities, like other things that they're able to do, right? So if a person came up to you with no legs, let's say a war vet, and she had lost both of her legs, and she just kept talking about how horrible it was and how hard life is and how unhappy it's made her in general, like how it's had a negative impact on her love life, finances. I can't get a job now, just everything, right? I can't run anymore. I used to love to run. We would allow that. We would listen to that. And we would think that that was normal behavior because of the temporary situation that she had experienced. We would never think to try to uplift her or try to reroute the conversation so that it is more positive and is not just focusing on one aspect of herself. Right? We would allow her to be obsessed with her problems because she has major problems, right? That would be our excuse. Like, she got the right to, because what if that were me? I can't imagine that. So I'm going to give her license to just dwell on her problems, even though it's not changing nothing. It's not helping nothing. It's not making her feel better. Definitely ain't making me feel better, right? None of it is helping her do the things that she wants to do and that she was doing before this happened. But we give her license to. Why? Because we allow for the obsession with problems. We allow people to identify with their problems when it's just a small part of the big picture, a small part of the things that you should be thinking about, right? What is the point of brain power if we are just going to use it to dwell on problems and to obsess over problems? If I were obsessed with a person and I thought about them all the time and that's all I wanted to talk about, I wanted to stalk them, I wanted to, learn everything about them, you would tell me I was crazy. You would tell me, like, you are out of line. You are obsessed with this person. You cannot be obsessed with another person. Yet, if I were to be obsessed with one aspect of my life, one problem of my life, that would be okay. You might even join in, right? And start throwing yours on a plate like, yeah, I got these problems too. And neither of us would step back, step outside of ourselves to see the bigger picture that we are not our problems. We would just be okay with it, right? Because everybody got problems. So that's life. But what does that really change? What does that really accomplish? And at the end of the day, an obsession is an obsession, no matter what the focus is of said obsession. And that's all I got to say. So the moral of the story is you are not your problems. You ain't your problems, no matter how big, no matter how small. That's not who you are. You're so many other things. There's so many other things that you are capable of. You have so many other gifts and talents and things like that. So when you allow the cork to come back up to the surface, right, of happiness, when you don't allow it to keep you down, and somebody looks at you like you crazy, like, why aren't you stressing over your major problem, right? Why are you, jumping rope? Why are you laughing and giggling and, playing tiddlywinks? That's random. But why are you doing all these frivolous things when you have major problems? Then you should automatically counter that by explaining to them that you're not your problems. And that's only one aspect of yourself. And you will dedicate one segment of your time to addressing those problems. And once you have done all you can do, the only thing left is to let the cork come back up to the surface, be happy, and continue on with being your whole self, the rest of you. What else are you aside from that problem? Go paint, go run, go cook, right? Go juggle, go sing, right? Because those are part of go volunteer of your identity outside of the problems that you're dealing with. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Love, live, light, laughter. Have a good week. Bye.